Hey everybody, so today we're going to be changing the oil in a 2015 Jeep Grand Cherokee. And you might be asking yourself if you watch the channel, big deal, you've done that already, and I have. What we're going to be doing a little bit differently today is we're going to be using the MityVac MV7201 fluid extractor. So in theory, and I've not used one of these before, but I've seen many professionals use these products, you can change the oil without ever getting under the vehicle to access the drain plug. And because the Jeep Grand Cherokee that I have here is the V6, the oil filter is topside, which means I never need to get under the vehicle at all to change the oil, in theory. How it works is these tubes here go down the dipstick tube, and it sucks the fluid out of the oil pan through the dipstick. So this could be a very, very non-messy way to do oil changes. In fact, I'm going to test that by wearing my good clothes. I'm wearing my good exercise clothes. So I'm going to warm the vehicle up. We'll get the MityVac going. We'll suck the oil out. We'll change the filter. We'll dump the fresh Pennzoil Ultra Platinum Full Synthetic 5W20, which is what the manufacturer calls for, into the engine as replacement oil. So let's see if this MityVac is worth its weight. Assuming it is, you'll find a link to it in the description. I think it's about $100 or so. And with the number of oil changes that I do in lawn and garden equipment, cars, air compressors, you name it, this thing is totally going to be worth it if it works. So let's find out. One thing to be mindful of, whenever you change the oil in an internal combustion engine, it's always good to warm the vehicle up to get any particles that are inside the motor that may not have been caught in the oil filter, to get it suspended in the oil, and also to get the oil warm so it flows better. But one thing to keep in mind is this thing, I think, is only rated to like 176 degrees Fahrenheit or thereabouts, so you don't want to get the oil too hot. Operating temperature is probably going to be higher than that, so I'm going to keep an eye on the oil temperature gauge on the dashboard, and I'll heat it to maybe 120 or so. Okay, so engine is running. I was just inside the cabin. The oil temperature was, I think, 78 degrees, so we'll let it run a bit more. Okay, I lied. It's a couple days later. Oil's at 120 degrees. Let's hook up this hose. So I got this hose pushed into this fitting. Got the vent closed here. Just attaching these sections of hose together. They seem to just push together like that. And this one's going to go down the dipstick. I did this wrong. Alright, so it looks like these two tubes are slightly different sizes. I'm going to see which one fits down the dipstick tube the best. First, we got to get the dipstick out of there. This vehicle, it's over here. Let's see which one fits. Try the bigger of the two first. That does seem to fit. I think it just bottomed out, which is good. Let's hook up this other end. And let the pumping begin, right? Make sure you guys can see okay. There it goes. It's coming. Might take a while. Looks like it's moving pretty slowly. But oil is definitely flowing. Move the MityVac over the ground just so it's not fighting gravity too. A little bit easier to pump when it's on the ground. Got maybe a quart out so far. Actually, it looks more than that. Or maybe a minute in or so. Maybe another 2 minutes in. I did notice that this thing seems to have graduations in liters. Over on this side over here you can't really see, so it looks like we're about about the 3 liter mark is what we've taken out. Not a drop spilled so far. So according to Alexa, we should expect to get about 5.68 liters out of this vehicle, so about 5.5 liters. And we're still going. Let's see, how far along are we? We're just over 4 liters. Let's give it a couple more pumps. Haven't had to pump it too much. Oh. Feels like we're nearing the end. Might need to reposition the tube, but it's sucking air now. Alright, so no matter how I position the tube and the dipstick, I can't get more than about 4 and say 3/4 of a liter out. So that means that that's probably oil still stuck in the filter and maybe a little bit in the pan. I might just pull the drain plug just to see how much is left in the pan, if any. Alright, since it's my first time using this device, I think I'm going to pull the drain plug on the car just to see what comes out of the oil pan, again, if anything. So if everything looks good and not much comes out, this will probably be the last time I pull this drain plug. Very exciting. So a decent amount actually came out of the drain plug at the bottom of the pan. You can see right here, it's maybe about a quart. And I'm guessing the reason for that is that the dipstick tube doesn't have a straight shot to the bottom of the pan sump. It might just be going into the upper section. So let's see how much we're actually didn't suck out. So like I said, we're just above the 4.5 liter mark. So let's suck all this out and see what it goes up to. So that said, I definitely would recommend pulling that bottom drain plug. It's unfortunate because I was hoping this would be like an easy win and never have to go under this vehicle again, but just due to its design, it seems like that's unavoidable. So sucking everything out of that drain pan, where are we at? So it looks like, I can't read it. The markings are really tiny. So it looks like maybe just above 5 liters. It's like maybe 5.25 liters. So yeah. 5.25 liters minus 4.75 liters. You guys can do the math. That's how much is in the lower pan. All right, even though we didn't get exactly what we wanted, still got to finish the job. So let's get our oil filter out. 1-inch socket. I know I've covered this procedure before, but just in case. Nice thing about that MityVac is I still haven't spilled a drop of oil, so that's kind of a nice plus. It is, even though you still have to go under the vehicle, it is a lot less messy. So here's our filter. We're going to take this to the bench, replace this cartridge and this O-ring. Pretty simple procedure. Just stick a seal pick underneath this O-ring. You could probably do it with a screwdriver too. Comes right off. Oh, I spilled a couple drops there. Oh well. This just pulls right off, and just discard this filter element. And this Wix oil filter comes with a new O-ring, the WL110. Link in the description as usual. So we'll just simply press on the new element. Open up our O-ring here. And just slide it down over the threads. If you want to be crazy and neurotic and whatnot, you can bathe this whole thing and clean it out really well, but it's not really necessary. I think I probably did that in my prior video. Cleaned it out with brake clean. You can do that, but it's not required. Make sure that O-ring's on there. And make sure you almost drop it too. Then just screw it back into the motor. Goes in like that. Sorry about the wind, folks. Windy day in South Florida today. Still very thankful for the weather though. The folks in the northeast are getting hit with like super frigid temperatures. That's it, just snug it down. You don't need to worry about torquing it to anything, as long as it doesn't leak. And simply refill with oil from here. And now we're simply going to fill the crankcase. Again, 5W20 engine oil. Leave a link in the description. You can pick this up anywhere though. This is actually the stuff that the Chrysler recommends, believe it or not. And it meets their proprietary specification or whatever it actually is. It's in the owner's manual. Doesn't really matter a great deal though. So I'm going to put all 5 quarts in here. But I think it takes pretty close to 6. There we go. Okay, I got approximately 6 quarts in the crankcase. Let's put everything back together. Start her up, we'll check for leaks. Not really expecting any though. All right, let's start her up. We're running. We'll check for leaks down by the oil filter. I see none. We'll take a look under the vehicle for leaks. I see none. We should be good. Last step is to, well actually the last 2 steps are to check the oil level to make sure we're still good. Because now we filled the oil filter, all the oil passages and everything else, so it's probably going to go down a little bit. I am on a bit of a slope here, so we'll take that into account. And we're still in the safe range. I might add a little bit more. Because again, we are on a slope and most of the oil is going to be at the back of the crankcase. Got the crankcase topped off. Now the last step in all this is to go reset the oil filter oil change reminder inside the vehicle. That's really easy to do. You don't need to scan tool or anything fancy. All right, so I believe the procedure for doing this is to put the vehicle in run mode with the button here. So cycle it over to run, and then we'll tap the gas 5 times. Or just keep on tapping it. I think that does it. Let's see if it did. Yep, that did it. So one of the cool things about this MityVac, the MV7201, is you can flip this toggle switch here and use it to pump the oil out of here into a waste oil container over there. So I've already done that. I pumped it a few times and you can see the oil flowing out. So it's a 2-way pump. Just super handy. So give it a couple pumps. We'll walk away, come back. When it's done, we'll take that oil over to the waste oil recycler. Not a drop spilled. Now with this model, you could have 2 of them. One for waste oil and another one for fresh oil. So you can store your fresh oil in here and use that to fill your crankcase too if you don't want to keep oil jugs around. So that's kind of handy. And while it didn't evacuate all of the oil from this vehicle, there's other uses for this, like that garden tractor, right, zero-turn mower you can see kind of over here on the right side, that Ferris. Where's my hand? Right here. It should be able to get to the bottom of that crankcase no problem. That air compressor over to the right in the corner over there, that thing's kind of a bear to change the oil in. You know, this thing over here. So lots of uses for this thing. And it may work perfectly in some vehicles, just not this 2015 Grand Cherokee. All right, everybody, I think that's a wrap. So in summary, pretty cool tool. It's great for changing oil in cars, outdoor power equipment, air compressors, pretty much anything that has an oil reservoir. The only downside is it may not get all the oil out of the very bottom of the reservoir, depending upon the design of the equipment. So just be mindful of that. If you're disabled and you can't easily get under a vehicle, but you still want to be able to change your own oil, this might be a good alternative for you. You're not going to get everything out of there, but in some vehicles, but at the very least, you'll get vast majority of the oil out of there. So consider that. Anyway, leave a link to this thing in the description. It's a MityVac MV7201. There are air-powered ones as well, so if you don't want to pump, you can hook it up to your air compressor. Anyway, thanks for watching. Stay safe. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.